All right, everybody, I think we're at the point we can start. Everybody will stand, we'll say the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, good evening, everybody. Sorry for the delay. It's been tonight's meeting is going to be a little bit different. And with the events that have happened the past week, that I'm sure that we're all trying to deal with yet, things got a little bit behind on my side. Totally forgot about meetings this week. Totally forgot about going to get door prizes, but you're going to benefit because of that. So tonight's door prize, we're going to give away 3 HRO gift certificates. Okay. Now, I don't have them obviously because I haven't had a chance to get there. So a big deal because if you win, make sure that we have your call sign, your name, and your mailing address just in case. Because what we'll do is we'll go online tonight, or maybe not till tomorrow, and purchase them online. And either they'll send you an email with it, make sure we have your email too, or they'll send it to you in the mail. Okay, directly to you. Okay, so we'll do that tonight. My apologies. Mike and I spent 56 hours last week straight at the Emergency Operations Center, Orange County, and needless to say, we were wide awake during those full 56 hours. Okay, so when we got home Sunday or Friday morning, I think by 10 o'clock, we were both sitting in the living room and the recliners till 5 o'clock. Okay, and then we lost power for 48 hours. Everything in the refrigerator had to go in the garbage. And Saturday we had to go shopping and all that kind. So we totally forgot about it. Then Michael, I had to work Sunday. Michael goes back to the apartment on Sunday. There's a water leak. My bathroom under the sink, my bedroom, my bathroom, my closet flooded. So needless to say, now my side of the apartment is completely ransacked because I'm trying to get everything out of the closet and save it. So we don't even have an agenda tonight, other than we do have a couple of things we're going to do. So I'm going to sit there and say for the first time since I've been president, we're going to wing it. Okay. So we'll get through it. It might be a little shorter, maybe a little longer. It might work just perfectly. But first thing I want to sit there and say, I'm hoping that everybody is doing well with the hurricane. Hopefully you didn't have too much damage. I know that guys that live in Seminole County, there lakes, rivers. Hopefully the worst is not going to be that bad. I understand the worst is still to come. But anyways, if you were here, were anybody here for the test session tonight? Did the testing? Okay. Did they pass the test recently? New members? We welcome everybody. Okay. Congratulations. All right. And this is not only what we do. We have an agenda program stuff. So the first thing I want to do is I want to bring up Andy. Andy, come on up. How many of you guys received a ballot and by electronic mail or possibly even in the mail? Some people might have already received them. Andy is running for vice director. Okay, so he wants to talk to us for a few minutes. I'll give him the microphone.
Thanks. So hello, everyone. My name is Andy Maluzzi. I was here back in August. You were here asking for signatures. They obviously were certified, and I'm on the ballot for vice director for the ARRL Southeastern Division. I can campaign now, so that's what this is. I want to share a little bit. I'm also willing to field any questions. The vice director role is to sort of represent the division and support the director. So I will be sort of in a learning role, learning sort of how the board functions and that sort of thing going through this, and then trying to obviously fill in for when our director would be unable to attend or do something. Usually the directors and vice directors try to partner up pretty well and try and break out communication and that sort of thing, try and be as visible and helpful to the division as possible. So my goals along that path is, like I said, to learn. Today actually is my decade of being a licensed amateur radio operator. I got my ticket back in 2012 on October 5th when I was a student up at the University of Florida. And I have been active ever since. And I am still active with the ARRL. Actually, directly following this meeting tonight, I'm going home to an ARRL PR committee meeting. I co-lead the ARRL Collegiate Amateur Radio Initiative. We got QSC this month. You probably saw my article in there talking about the contest that was this past weekend. We had 37 schools, including a school from Ukraine and Cambridge University and a school from Canada as well. So we're going to get international participation. So I'm very active across lots of different things. So while I might be, half the age of the folks I'm running against, I do have some leadership experience and some involvement sort of across the league. I am also active. I have made over 1,000 QSOs since Camtation. I can tell you it's since Camtation. That's when I won my radio. But I won the 7,300 at Camtation. So I got my home shack set up. 1,000 QSOs, about 85% are FT8. The other 15%, almost 15% are single sideband. And then I can say this weekend I also made my first 2 CW QSOs. So I am very active, like I said, in the hobby, and I'm trying to support it and grow and learn with others. I build my own antennas. My background is I am a senior systems engineer for Walt Disney Imagineering, and I'm an electrical engineer by degree. I have my PhD in that. So this is a hobby for me of both interest professionally as well as a hobby for me, really to sort of try something new and connect with other folks. So I would appreciate if you consider me. If you want to find out more about me or connect with me, you can check out my website. It's really simple. It's kk4lwr.com. And there's also a campaign page up there. That's my call sign, kk4lwr.com. And I'm happy to take any questions if anyone has. Yeah. Where's home? So I'm originally from Cleveland, Ohio, but I live currently in Claremont. So this was a nice about 20-minute drive over to do this. And as both John and Michael can attest, I'm also pretty involved with various things at Camtation, with the Yoda booth, with First Robotics, when they have stuff here, with the league and that sort of thing. So, yeah, so I'm in this area a lot. Any other questions? What is my name? My name is Andy Maluzzi, KK4LWR.
Michael, can you turn it up just a hair? Because this air conditioner is on. It's hard to hear back to back.
Any other questions? I do. They're actually league business cards because I have done that much with the league that they have printed me a stack. So, yep, and I have more if anyone else would like one. Any other questions? Cool. Well, as John said, ballots have been sent out. Electronic ones came at the end of last week, which was super great timing for a hurricane. And other ones are in the mail. So please take a look at that. There's 4 of us running for vice director. And then there are 3 folks running for director. And I know every candidate who's running would appreciate at least you considering them and looking at their statements and all that. But yeah, I guess I can leave the stack of cards right here in case folks want to connect with me.
How many of you guys actually voted electronically? Okay. Cool. How many of you actually received the mail-out ballots? Not the ones on electronic mail, but the ones coming in the USPS. Those will probably take about 3 weeks to get it. Yep.
Okay. Yes, you should have received 2 emails. You should have received one email saying, hey, you're going to get an email from what might go to spam saying that, okay, we are, using this company and all that for voting. Please go check your spam and whitelist this one. And if you go check your spam, you should have it. It was sent out to all Southeastern Division members in good standing as of, who are valid members, I believe, as of October. So. Correct. Yep, and there's only 2 things on the ballot to vote for, so it takes all of a minute or 2. There's also a link on there when you get to the ballot that you can view more on each of the candidates running. And you can see that. Yep, and then if you don't want to vote by electronically, this is the first time the league is doing that. You can just wait until the paper ballot comes in the mail, and they will combine the 2 totals from what's sent up to Newington as well as.
I think the ballot ballot, you have until the middle of November.
It's something like that. Yeah, you have a few weeks to return that. So.
It's a good thing, because now you go, yes, we'll slow from that. So.
And this is one of the few opportunities you get to have say as a division at the board level. So if you are unhappy with what the league is doing, or you want the league to consider something new, this is a great opportunity to vote in someone and try to connect with that person. So try to make that happen.
Do you have a particular platform or something that you're focused on?
So yeah, my CV to my amateur radio CV has largely been focused on youth and amateur radio. I got my ticket as a college student. So that's why I am involved. I lead the ARO Collegiate Amateur Radio Initiative, and then I'm also one of the volunteers for Yoda. So my goal is to look at things like Jamboree on the Air, look at Yoda, look at the Collegiate Amateur Radio program, that sort of thing, and really focus on setting the league up for the 2nd century. We had a great 1st century of amateur radio, but what does the ARO look like, and what does the hobby look like, and how does the league evolve and grow to support this ever-changing hobby? So that's what I'm focused on. But like I said, the role of vice director is more of a support role and learning role. So I plan to share those, but obviously I don't get like a vote, for example, in the actual board to do that.
I'll come with the mic.
What is your position towards amateur radio satellites, and what is your position towards amateur radio on the International Space Station?
So I am very much pro both of those. So my satellite rig is actually 2 817s that I have a 3D printed rack for, and I wear it as a chest rig, and I hang a audio recorder off that, and I will actually, I've roved a couple of grids. My brother's also a big rover, so he's in the Great Plains. So I tend to get on the air a fair bit with satellites. I do both linear and FM. So I was an AMSAT member, I'm not currently. But that is actually the next, I'm currently working through a suite of awards, and Gridmaster is on my to-do list. So in terms of satellite, I very much want to see that happen, because when I was stuck in an apartment, that was really my only practical way to get on the air, was to be able to grab the aero antenna and run outside. For Eris and supporting that, again, I'm a huge fan. I've used the repeater on the International Space Station, and I've listened in on contacts. It was particularly cool to be sort of on the end of Yoda when they got to have their contact with the International Space Station, sort of see all the prep that goes into that happening, as well as actually getting to hear the contact happen. So, like I said, very pro on both of those. And the league has grown in support of that lately, but that is one thing that I certainly see benefit for. And that is something that also, going back to the question about my platform, for many college age and young hands, we don't have 40-foot towers with beams in our backyard, including me right now. My antenna is a dipole in my attic. So getting on satellites and doing that sort of thing is a very accessible way to get people into and excited about the hobby. And the league has always started to pivot on that, certainly from like an educational outreach. If you follow the Teachers and the Instructors Institute, they've been doing a fair bit of that. But that's definitely something where the league can continue to grow.
Anybody else? Questions?
So I'm a new guy to this hobby, completely new. I just got my license not even a month ago. But you have mentioned about new hands, so I realize that you're campaigning, but if you were awarded the position that you're campaigning for, do you have any ideas or any influence for guys that don't have an electrical engineering background that are completely clueless to this?
Yeah, so my Elmer, the one that my mentor that got me into the hobby, he was actually a dentist. So yes, the thought is, or at least my thought is to look at the ARL as an organization that can really facilitate the growth and the learning of people who are not really technically versed and allow them to find, something in the hobby that they enjoy. From the director level, and the director level for the ARL is sort of like the executive leadership. For that, that's putting funding into things like the Teacher Institute, creating policies that support more, in some cases, youth activities or more learning activities. And we've started to see some of that happen. So one of the cool things that the league has started doing, and they started this at, actually, I think it was Campation here, the first time they did it this past year, was they did the kit building and soldering actually in the booth. So if you had no idea how to solder, if you had no idea how electronics works, they actually had a few kits that I think they're either free or extremely cheap, that you can come in, solder, and get that basic. I think it was a crystal radio, if I recall correctly. And it was just a very quick and easy way. And a lot of those initiatives right now are actually coming from lead staff. They're not coming from a broader board directive. And that's my goal would be to continue to bring that sort of thing to the board level and make it a priority there, and really focus on that. Because like I said, when I work with college students, I actually have a call next Tuesday. Believe it or not, the vast majority of them are not engineers. You have a few that are engineers, maybe in their satellite club or whatever, but you get people who are all over. There's a lot of geography and meteorology majors that get into it because they're looking at career that way. There are some people that just found it and had fun. So being able to really support those folks that are getting into it from a completely new perspective, don't have any technical expertise, get them something hands-on that they can benefit from. I want to bring that to the executive leadership level. I think there was another question over here.
Okay.
No? Is that you?
I said I didn't get the email.
Okay, the biggest thing, if you haven't received email, check your spam folder.
Yeah.
Or, so. You'll catch them.
Any other questions?
You gonna be here for a little bit?
I'll be here for a little bit.
You have a meeting.
Yeah, at 9 o'clock I have a PR committee meeting, so I need to leave in about 30 minutes, but I will be here for about the next 30 minutes.
Okay, sounds good.
Folks on the have questions, right? Thank you all for having me.
Good luck.
Get out of the way of the camera.
All right, everybody hear me? I got a louder voice, so let me move the microphone a little further away. Just talk about Hamcation real quick. We still are in need of volunteers. So please go up on the website and volunteer. I would have a little more to talk about, but a little hurricane canceled our Hamcation committee meeting on Saturday. Wasn't because of hurricane happening, but the Orange County EOC is still at level 1 and fully activated because of all the flooding. So it is still full of people. As of today, it was still at level 1. So that's why we didn't have a Hamcation committee meeting. But we are still, everything's good to go. Everything's moving forward. So please, if you want to volunteer, please go up on the website, start volunteering. You do get a free ticket if you work 4 hours. 4 days. For you, you can still get a free ticket. So if you do work 8 hours in one day, we do feed you also into in the volunteer lounge. And always snacks and drinks served.
Yeah, you can always come and go to get drinks and snacks and stuff like that out there. So,
The other thing I want to mention is the awards, the deadline's approaching.
oh yeah, the awards, deadline is approaching for the Carroll Carroll Educator of the Year Award and the new one, which is the Gordon West, Ambassador Award. So if you know anybody that you want to nominate, please go up on the website. October 30th or November 1 is the deadline to submit your nominations for it. All the criteria is on the website under the awards side of it. Also, real quick, Melbourne Ham Fest, this is Friday and Saturday. Hamcation will have a booth there. We actually are moving locations from where we're usually at to the opposite side to get a little more room. Plus, they sold our booth without telling us. So we're moving to the opposite side, which I think is going to work out a little better for us. So it'd be a bigger booth, a little more room for us to work out of. So come and see us over there. We will have tickets for sale, everything like that. So stop by and say hi. Yeah.
Oh, you can get home.
I'm sorry, what? For Melbourne? It's Friday and Saturday. Friday it opens at, I think it's 1 p.m. to 1 to 7, and Saturday is, I think 9 to 4, 3 or 4, 3. Yeah, 3. So Friday is usually dead. When they open up, a little bit of people come. They stay open until 7. By 5:30, everybody's calm and done. So Saturday, if you do plan on coming over, Saturday is the better day, of course. And hopefully we won't have rain or no hurricanes. Any other questions about Hamcation or? No? I didn't hear what he said.
We can hear you, Mike, say it again.
Free ticket for what?
For visiting us at Melbourne.
If you work 4 hours in the booth, I'll give you a free ticket.
Is there designated parking for volunteers?
For Hamcation? There is. The gate, I'm pretty sure you entered in the gate here on the east side. When you come in tonight, right before that gate, there's a gate to your right. That's volunteer parking right there. Is there.
Unless you, depending on who's there, all the volunteers do park there. If you're tailgate or RV, you decide to come over on this side because they're actually on this side of the field, so they're walking right across. But
Pretty much if you're working for anybody other than tailgate and RV, volunteer parking is going to be over here. Yes, sir. Potholes? You're talking about the roads coming in and out? I doubt it because there's a fight over who owns the property.
the road,
The fairground says they own it, the city says they own it, and nobody wants to do nothing because nobody will take liability of who owns it. So I'm going to throw it out. I have a meeting coming up with them. I'll throw it out there to them. But yeah, it's one of those, we'll see. So at some point they're going to have to fix it because nobody's going to come to either here or the soccer fields, which are owned by the city, the soccer fields are. So at some point they are going to have to fix it.
All right, any other questions on the application? We're gonna roll forward. All right. Like I said, we're gonna do little things a little differently so we can have time for a presentation. Why don't we go ahead and do the refreshments, get that out of the way. We'll take about 10 minutes with the refreshments. We'll come back to the presentation. We'll do our drawings and we'll get those gift certificates to the winners. If you do need Christmas tickets, Christmas dinner tickets, Anna has the tickets here. You're more than welcome to purchase them tonight. It's tonight and next month's meeting only. They're going to be available unless you email us and we'll send you a link that you can pay for them online. And we'll save the ticket for you and give it to you at the door at the Christmas party. but we don't really sell the tickets at the Christmas party. For some reason, we kind of need to know who's all coming or how many are coming, so we have enough food for everybody. If everybody waits until the Christmas party, then we might not have enough food, okay? So, good.
One more thing on Camtasia. I see a lot of new faces in here that I haven't seen before. How many people in here does not know what Camtasia is? Okay, at least a couple, okay. Let me explain that real quick. Camtasia is the second largest amateur radio trade show in the world. It's held right here at the fairgrounds. We went the entire fairgrounds, from pretty much 50 to Fair Villa to BMX Lane to the lake. So all your major vendors will be here. ICOM, Yazoo, ARL has a huge presence here. So basically it's a trade show for amateur radio. If you're looking to buy radios, it's the place to come. You can talk to the actual manufacturers. We have a lot of like ham radio outlets here, DX Engineering, Gigaparts, all the major vendors are here to sell stuff. We also have a lot of forums that you can sign up, or you don't have to sign up, but forums happen all 3 days. So you can also go to a forum, learn about amateur radio. We'll have a schedule up on that. But to do this, it does take volunteers. And usually it takes 300 to 400 volunteers to put on the event. In a normal year prior to COVID, we're hitting almost 25,000 visitors over 3 days, right here at the fairgrounds. So that's what it is. If you go to www.camtasia.com, more info is up there on everything.
All right. Hamcation.com is basically ham sandwich and then patient or vacation.com. It's pretty easy to get to. It's funny. How many guys remember? How many guys remember the lion green T-shirts that we had that said Hamcation across the front years ago? 2000. There's one right there. 2017, I think it was. 8 of us traveled to Dayton, Ohio for Hamvention, the largest one in the world. Going through the airport, all of us had the green shirts on. Everybody stared. We had so many people asking, what is Hamcation, which gave us the publicity. But we also had people asking, where's the pig roast? How can they come to the pig roast? And stuff. So that shirt brought a lot of eyes to Hamcation and stuff. So we'll have to do another one again. All right, ready? All right, so 10 minutes. We got coffee, donuts, water, and maybe some soap in the cooler, and we'll come back to our presentation.
It's not under ARL, it's election services. Okay. Election services.
Well, everybody's getting their donuts and coffee and drinks and stuff. If you're looking for the ARL election email, it's under the title or the caption, election services. To look for election services.
Day was my limit. 4 days is my limit. I don't know when I'm gonna say whether what I'll be doing. We were running 3 points. That's when all your brain disease, your heart attacks, strokes, all that stuff happens at that time. That is not the first one, but low number one. You're welcome. Yeah. So now I can see that. Yeah. It's like during COVID, all of a sudden it's kind of, yeah, steps went down, the domestic issue through the roof. Howdy, sir. Hello. How you been doing? Good. The flyer you used up at Dayton works. For Huntsville, sorry. Can you send me a copy of the final version? Yeah. I'll see if I can translate it. I've got a couple of changes with Liddy, and they would actually like to see it in several different languages. And it may actually be beneficial for us in doing a Spanish version of it, especially for the shows down here. Yeah. You know, like Melbourne or something like that. But you know, we can start using that at the even at Hamcation. You know, the information booth there. We get all the international folks. Yeah. And you know, we got a contingent from Brazil or something like that. Make it easier for them. I don't have. Okay, that's fine. Yeah.
How long is the video?
Hey, I like my picture. The one that they posted up on Facebook, I was part of.
Oh, the county?
Yeah,
The school?
yeah. They put me in as the
FEMA representative.
FEMA representative. Going,
I saw that.
oh, cool.
Should ask for your pizza.
I bet. I forgot.
What, 36 minutes?
I forgot. So I learned a lot of things while I was there. One, I can't talk into a tin can. Two, even with a big, had a 15 element, UHF being pointed right at out here, I could not make it out. And then Mitch, finally convinced him. I said, you know, you got this connection, and right now you're down. Which means I can't send any messages over to your line. I said, not only that, you don't have any backup power can or backup internet. Said, we need to create yourself a machine. Give me a PC, a radio, and everything. I'll supply the antenna, and I'll even supply the coax. I said, put it up in my attic. When yours goes down, you turn mine on. And if I'm in one of those shelters, I'll be able to hit it. The second thing I'm going to do is I have a spare VHF radio. VHF radio. I may set that up. So I go out, VHF, back to my house, VHF, back to my home. Because my attic kind of no problem getting it up. I don't get left from house. I actually did. Yeah. My way out. Right. Right. And that's what I did. I just took the separate battery. That was cool. And on that, I was able to use the power. That cool. Everybody.
All right, everybody, we want to start working our way back to our seats so we can go for our presentation with you. Mr. Brawl, here. 18 Mr. Brawl. All right, everybody, can you start making your way back to your seat so we get started? Still trying to get out of here at due time. Need some sound effects. Have to download an app for sound effects. Yep. I wish. I think I probably get kicked out by the board for doing that one. I could always just leave it temporary insanity. Yeah. All right, Ed, you want to do your introduction?
Oh, great. Good evening. Two things. The presentation is a ARRL webinar, and it's a topic that one of you, as a member of OARC, asked about, and it's about the ugly melon. How big should it be? What size form should you wrap it on? Where in your transmission line should you put it? You get some answers to those questions tonight. And is it even necessary? It's supposed to answer that question too. I hope it does. The second topic are those radios or receivers and the MFJ products in fact. All that equipment was donated to me. It's listed in the listing post, and I'm selling it, and all the proceeds from it go to the club. And everything on there has got a suggested price, but also for best offer. So if it's something you like and you don't want to pay the prices listed, but you might, we'll dicker a little bit if you don't mind. So I'd like to get rid of some of those before Hamcation, because if I don't, they're going to be at the swaps table at Hamcation, along with the silent treasures items that were listed in the listing post also. You may have seen it. It's a quite extensive list. And now would be your chance to get a chance to buy one of those items on that list before you have to compete with somebody at Hamcation, because they'll end up at the swaps table too. So we're ready, Michael. Go ahead and start it up. This particular presentation is supposed to
30 minutes long, 38 minutes. The one that was made on the official ARRL webinar list is 58 minutes. So somewhere along the line, it cut a lot out.
They don't have any idea. They just either buy one or wrap a whole bunch of coax around a piece of PVC and hope that it'll work. So we want to talk about how do you design your own coiled coax balance. That's what they're correctly called, sometimes called ugly balance. Now, almost any ham that's been around for a while, particularly the DX crowd, who probably have beams and so forth. I don't have a beam up here, I can't, but are aware of the ugly balance. Here's a picture of one hanging up on a multi-element beam made out of some RG8 wrapped around a piece of PVC. But most hams who use these probably just take a... There we are. And I enjoy hearing all these Bay Area names. So I lived in the Bay Area for quite a while in Foster City. Anyway, let's go to share screen and pick up this PowerPoint.
Oh, it works.
Oh yeah, it works.
Oh, at this point, can I have everybody mute yourself?
Yes, everybody mute yourself. And I also recommend, if you're seeing a series of thumbnails down the right side of your screen, go up to the top of there to the little black bar and to the little minus sign on the left end. Click on it, it'll drop the thumbnails out so you can see the whole screen, because some of the PowerPoint slide information would be under that if it wasn't. So go ahead and do that if you would. All right, let's begin this slideshow. Oh, I've got that dang thing covered up here. Okay. Well, all right, let's go. There we are. All right, everybody seeing the title slide?
Absolutely.
All righty, thank you very much. Well, as you can see, this presentation was originally prepared for the ARRL Learning Network some time ago now, although this particular form of it has been added to or changed and improved quite a bit. It all resulted from an article I wrote back in QST back in February 21. One of my latest articles. I'm up to 23 now, I think. And you can, and there are my contact points. If any of you want to make contact with me, I'll be glad to talk to you about it. And you can get it there with the QR code if you like. So that's why it's under the ARRL wrapper here. So, what will you learn tonight? Well, we're going to talk about the primary purpose of a ballot. Some of you may be saying, oh, I know what that is. Well, are you sure you know what it is? Because I stood up at a radio club meeting here recently and I asked for a show of hands. And I asked the simple question, what is the primary purpose of a ballot? I got a lot of people answering, but very few of them gave anything like the correct answer. Most of them gave the pat answer, which we'll talk about, which doesn't tell you anything, or as the British say, bloody nothing about what a ballot does. So we're going to take a look at it from what it really does. Also, where do you want to locate a ballot? Now you might say, again, this sounds like a no-brainer question. No, it's not. You'll be surprised how many emails I get from people asking, well, where do I put a ballot? And because there is some question about this. Does it go at the antenna? Does it go in the middle of the feed line? Does it go at your shack? Where does it go? Well, this is not a question that a lot of people can answer knowledgeable. Maybe by experience they do. But one of the things that many hams don't know about is how much ballot do you need? And they don't have any idea. They just either buy one or wrap a whole bunch of coax around a piece of PVC and hope that it'll work. So we want to talk about how do you design your own coiled coax balance. That's what they're correctly called, sometimes called ugly balance. Now, almost any ham that's been around for a while, particularly the DX crowd, who probably have beams and so forth. I don't have a beam up here, I can't, but are aware of the ugly balance. Here's a picture of one hanging up on a multi-element beam made out of some RG8 wrapped around a piece of PVC. But most hams who use these probably just take a cookbook out of the internet and don't know why it's that many turned or that big. Well, I'm going to show you how to figure it out. It's really a piece of cake, or a piece of coax, maybe we should say. We're going to talk about how do you select the coil form? What kind of a form do you use? What determines the number of turns on that coil? How big in diameter should the coil be? And how long should it be? Now, like I say, a lot of people just grab a bunch of coax and wrap it on PVC, but they don't know whether they're doing it correctly or not. And that's what we want to show you how to do tonight. All right, here are the actual forms that a ballon takes, or a coax ballon takes, or an ugly ballon. On the upper left is the classical familiar one. Now, by the way, these are all 2-meter ballons. The principle is the same for an HF ballon or whatever. These are all little 2-meter ballons because I write lots of 2-meter articles. On the upper left is a PVC pipe ballon or coax ballon with a number of turns of coax. Here, a mini around a piece of 3/4 PVC. This one has some holes drilled through it, so it'll hold the turns. Although you can use tie wraps if you want. Another popular form of the coax ballon is to just scramble wind it as in the lower left and hold it together with some zip ties. My favorite, and this is the one I really like, is the upper right, where you take and you make the same scramble wound coil, except you don't do it as pancakes. You wrap the wire in and out of itself. You loop it over the top and bring it out back through the middle with each turn until you form what's called a torus knot, as you can see it there. The advantage, not only easy to do, it doesn't need anything to secure it. It holds itself. Also on the bottom right there, I own a 3D printer, greatest tool I ever purchased in my life, and love it, love it, love it. And I've printed a couple of little, this is the 2-meter version, a couple of little ballon forms. I can just plunk the wire on it, pull it up tight, and I've got a ballon. I've got a 2-meter, which is the one you see here, and a 6-meter version. I've never made a bigger one. I usually go to PVC for bigger, ugly ballons. By the way, if you want the STL files so you can print one of these your own, just send me an email. I'll be glad to send it to you. All right, let's go into what I said, the concept number one. What is the primary purpose of a ballon? And if you're like most of the guys that I got the answers from at the radio club, they answered, oh, I know, it's to convert balanced to unbalanced. I said, yeah, that's true. But what in the heck does that mean? That's not a good answer. That covers up the answer of what these things do. The much better answer to what a ballon does, and I don't like the word ballon, I use a different name for them. The primary reason for all ballons, choke off shield current, outside shield current. Or, if you want to put it in perhaps more technical terms, to eliminate common mode current. So I don't call these things ballons, although I'd use the term, of course, but I call them coax shield chokes. That's what the correct name for these devices. All right, let's understand why. Here's a piece of coax that we've cut in half with an X-Acto knife so we can look at it from the end, and you see the classic elements of it. The blue is the shield or the screen. The white is the dielectric, might be air or plastic. If it's coax, it's usually plastic of some sort. And the red in the middle, which is the center conductor. These are mostly copper, often silver plated and so forth to work well. That's a typical cross-section of coax. But there's a lot more to it than that. Let's take a look at just the center conductor. We'll look at the shield here in a minute too. But skin effect plays a big part in what happens in coax. As most hams know, skin effect is the tendency of RF or AC of any frequency not to run entirely uniformly through a conductor, but to migrate towards the edge. And the higher the frequency, the more it does it. So RF migrates towards the edge. So the current is only flowing in a skin on the edge of the inner conductor of coax. But let's look at the outer conductor now, the shield. Interestingly, because the shield has two sides, whereas the inner conductor only has one, the skin effect on the outside of the shield, the current on the outside of the shield running, is to divide the shield into two separate wires. This is all because of skin effect. So current can flow on either side of the shield, inside or outside, and it can flow in different directions and be different values. And this is all due to skin effect. This is a principle not too commonly understood in the ham community. So remember, coax is a 3-conductor transmission line, and as such is an unbalanced transmission line for that reason. It's that third conductor that makes it unbalanced. Okay, what's the upshot of this? Well, the upshot of this, as many of you already know, but we'll review. If you've got a dipole there, that vertical black line with the 2 arrows on it is the dipole, vertical dipole in this case. The current feeding it comes from the blue and the red conductors inside the coax. The red is coming from the outside of the center conductor, and the blue is coming from the inside of the outer conductor or the shield. But at the end of that coax is what we call the 2 to 3 wire transition, because the skin allows the current to flow around and to connect the green conductor and the blue conductor together. So the blue current that's coming back off the dipole, when it comes back there down the antenna, to go back down the antenna, does go down the inside of the coax on the inside of the shield, but it also flows down the outside of the coax as a thin skin on the outside. This is the reason for the essence of all balance, is to stop this 2 to 3 wire transition. So remember, wherever coax ends, an open line of any kind or just 2-wire transmission line begins. There's a 2 to 3 wire transition, and that's what the balun or the coax shield choke is for, to get rid of that second 2 to 3 wire transition. And it's not always at the antenna. It may be in several places if you do some conversions in your feed system. All right. I like to analogize what coax does with this picture. Here's a simple plain wire dipole being fed with 600 ohm open wire line, a balanced system. Coax does what's symbolized here by the yellow line. It adds a 3rd wire. It connects it to that left side. That would be the shield in the case if it were coax. It adds a 3rd wire. What does that do for you? Nothing that you want. It'll do all 3 of the things there on the right. It can well increase the SWR in the system because that yellow wire is part of the radiating system, just like the dipole is part of the radiating system. The transmission line is not part of the radiating system. It's balanced out. But now with coax, you've got a 3-wire antenna, and the SWR can easily be influenced by that 3rd wire. It can also put the tuning off. It can also put it on a different frequency. But the really big one that happens most of the time is that 3rd wire changes the radiation pattern. What would happen if you put up a 3-wire dipole, or tripole, I guess it would be? The radiation pattern wouldn't be the same as the dipole, would it? Well, that's what happens when you don't use a balun to get rid of the 2-wire to 3-wire transition. Okay, well, I think you know, how do we eliminate these 2 to 3 wire transitions? And believe me, there are more of them than one in most systems. Okay, this answer is quite simple. We insert a blockage, a roadblock, in the coax shield, in the outside of it. And we do that in one of 2 ways. We either just coil up some of that coax and make a coil out of it, which has a reactance or an impedance to stop that current from flowing back down the outside at the 2 to 3 wire transition. Or we put ferrite sleeves and chokes on the outside to do the same thing. This is the primary job of a balun. We say it's balanced to unbalanced, and yes, it's doing that, but that's a misnomer name as far as I'm concerned. I don't like the term balun. All right, here's the coax coil that we wind in the outside, which can just be a few turns of coax wound up in the feed line, going up to the antenna. This is what makes up an ugly balun. It has two properties to it. Of course, it has inductance. The outside there of the shield forms a coil, which has inductance or inductive reactance, if we want to use the proper term. But the shield also, being next to itself for in the turns, also has interturn capacity. So this coil of coax that we wind to stop the 2 to 3 wire transition has both inductance and capacitance. And in fact, it's a parallel tuned circuit at a given frequency. We'll come to that frequency here in a minute. So remember, when you wind a coil of coax in your feed line, you're creating a parallel tuned circuit to choke off the current flowing down the outside. This brings us to the subject of self-resonance. Now, the blue line coming at an angle in this graph is the inductance. The red line from the right is the inductance of the coil, the turns that you wrap in the coax. It uses that simple formula that you've probably all read in a radio book, that the impedance of a coil is 2 pi times the frequency times the inductance. And the blue line coming in from the upper left is the distributed capacity, or the capacity between the turns of that coil in the outside. And you'll notice at one particular frequency, those two cross each other and they are equal. That's the frequency of self-resonance, at which point the blocking factor of this coil on the outside increases. People ask me, is self-resonance a bad thing? No, it just blocks even more. So don't worry about self-resonance. It's not a problem. Generally speaking, our balun, as I'm showing here at the bottom, is working at a lower frequency than self-resonance. But in case you're interested in knowing what the self-resonance of your balun is, you can find it at this website, which is there in the QR code at the right if you want to take a picture of it for further reference. It's a little program I like to use called Coil 64. It's great for winding coils and so forth. Later on, I'm going to show you a 160 meter example. And when I ran this little calculator there on the 160 meter example, it had a resonant frequency of nearly 11 megahertz. For a 160 meter balun, that's considerably above the balun. Doesn't matter where the self-resonance is, and it's not a problem, believe me. All right, there we've got through the technical stuff about balance. Now let's talk about where do we put it. I'm going to try to answer this question by asking you a question or two. All right, here's a nice fiberglass mast held up by some guy lines, and on the top of it is a simple wire dipole. I've duplicated the picture and replaced the open wire line on the left with coax on the right. So here's the same exact antenna being fed either with open wire line, so-called balanced line, which it is, and coax, so-called unbalanced line, because it has 3 conductors. Here's the question. Where does the balun go in these 2 pictures? Does it belong at the top of both of them, or one of them, or neither of them? Or does it go at the bottom of the feed line where it hooks up to your radio? Or do we even need a balun in some of these cases? Can you answer these 4 questions? If you can, then you're good at doing balance. Our bird in the window is chirping. Mute your mic. Okay, let's answer the question here. Where is the 2 to 3 wire transition in these 2 pictures? Well, as some of you already know, if you're feeding a dipole with coax, it's right up at the antenna. So you have to put the balun up there if you want it to really work right. But where is the 2 to 3 wire transition in the picture on the left? Some of you may not even think one exists. Oh, yes, it does. What is your rig? What is the feed line coming from your rig to your tuner or whatever you're using to feed that open wire line? Is that balanced line? No, it's not. It's coax. And there's where a 2 to 3 wire transition occurs. There's a 2 to 3 wire transition either at the top or the bottom of virtually every system. So you want you want to understand where the 2 to 3 wire transition is. And there is one for open wire line. And by the way, while I'm here, don't use the balun in your tuner. Those are terrible baluns for, they're voltage baluns and they're all sorts of trouble. I never use them. Okay. Now, to find out how to build an ugly balun, a coax balun, there's a 2-step process. And the 2 steps are, you first have to figure out how much inductance do you need to do the choking. And then you have to work from the inductance and get the coil details. How big, how long, how many turns. It's a 2-step process, and I'm going to show you doing both of them here. Okay, what's the starting point? Step 1 starts with the coax coil needs a minimum impedance if it wants to choke off that current. And the minimum standard practice for a balun, this is a number to remember, is to have at least 4 times the reactance of the system you're working in. It's a 50 ohm system, you need 200 ohms. So generally speaking, for most ham installations, the minimum amount of inductance you need, the minimum system against the system, say, of 50 ohms, is 200 ohms. You can use more. In fact, more is not a problem, just as the self-inductance was, or self-resonance was not a problem. More inductance is not a problem. Lots of websites suggest more, although 200 ohms is sufficient. Well, now, once you know you need 200 ohms inductance, or inductive reactance, as it truly is, once you know you need that much impedance, or inductive reactance, you can put it into this formula. The inductive reactance of 200 ohms is 2 pi times the frequency, we'll be running 1.8 in the example, times the L. Or if you do the simple math and just rearrange this equation, it comes down to this very simple formula that I think almost anybody can work. The amount of inductance you need for a 200 ohm impedance in the line is 31.8 divided by the frequency in megahertz. So how much inductance would we need at 10 megahertz at 30 meters? 31.8 microhenries. Very easy formula to work. All right, here's a little diagram that I created here, a little spreadsheet, showing you what that formula works out for all the bands 160 meters up through 10 meters. And you can see it's frequency dependent as the equation predicts. And anywhere from 17.7 microhenries needed at 160 for a minimum 200 ohm reactance balun. At 28 megahertz, we only need 1.1 microhenries to get a 200 ohm reactance balun. So you need a smaller coil will obviously work at 10 meters, and a bigger coil is necessary at 1.8. Some people automatically ask, can I use one coil for all of them? Yes, just make yourself a 160 meter balun and use it for all bands. It works just fine. Okay, that's step number 1. And by the way, if I back up here, by the way, notice the 17.7 microhenries. We're going to need that number for the 1.8 megahertz balun or 160 meter balun. Remember, 17.7. You'll see it come up here in a minute. Okay, now that you got your 17.7 microhenries in this individual case, or whatever it is, you now need to turn that 17 microhenries, or whatever it is, into the coil mechanics. That is, how many turns? How long should the coil be? What should the diameter be? These can vary a great deal because you can make ugly baluns with more turns and smaller diameter, but you need to figure out which one you're going to use here. You see, you need an answer to these 3 questions. How many turns, how long, what diameter? You can usually decide for yourself what diameter you'd like, or what length of coil you'd like, or what number of turns you'd like, and work the equation, the whole calculator backwards. Now, here's the math. Much too complicated. Yes, I can do math. I can certainly run through this equation. You can plug in the inductance. You can plug in the number of the coil radius and the coil number of turns and the coil length into this formula. And this will give you the inductance, the number of turns that you need. But I don't like to bother with it. There's so many good calculators on the internet that I generally use them instead of working the math because I'm prone to make errors in math. Here's the calculator that I like. I'll leave this up for a few seconds here so that if you've got a cell phone camera and want to copy the QR code or just take a picture of the screen so you can look up this particular URL. This is a great little calculator for taking inductance and turning it into the number of turns of coax that you need, which you see down there at the bottom, number of turns, L. Translator Cafe, and that QR code will take you right there. And you can see it starts out by putting in the number of microhenries, and then you decide on how big a coil you want to use, and then you have to put in the diameter of the shield without the insulation and the diameter of the coax with the insulation, and push the button, and it'll tell you you need so many turns, so many centimeters long. All right, let's do an example. This 160 meter ballon, we're going to build it out of RG8, and we're going to put it on PVC pipe, the good old classical ballon, the ugly ballon. By the way, RG8 or LMR 400, if you get the flexible kind, or RG213, all 50 ohm 4/10 inch coax, 4.03 inches on the out, 0.403 inches on the outside, not four. Oh, that's the pipe. Sorry. What am I saying? The pipe is 4-inch pipe. That's down at the bottom. I'm getting confused. The diameter of the coax is at the bottom, 0.403 inches. And since the insulation has little effect on it, we need the diameter of the actual shield. And for RG8, it's 0.38 inches. So remember these numbers. 4-inch form, 4.5 inches in diameter, 17.7 microhenries, 0.38 inches for the actual conductor, and 0.403 for the total diameter, which determines the spacing on the coil. And here it is. Here's the ugly ballon for 160 meters. This is the literal one. And here you see I've taken this calculator and I put in 17.7 microhenries, which we got from step 1. I've put in the diameter of the form, which is 4-inch PVC, which has a 4.5 inch outside diameter. I've put in the diameter of the shield without the insulation, which is 0.38 inches, and I've put in the diameter of the coax itself with the jacket, which is 0.403, and it's close wound. That's what this calculator is designed for, a close wound ugly ballon. And by the way, if you, that's my second operator. Sorry. Hey, stop it. I'm probably getting a delivery. She hates the delivery man. Anyway, if you forget, 1 centimeter is 2.54 inches. And by the way, it was recently standardized there in France, I think it was, at the International Association of Numerics or whatever, so that 1 inch equals 2.54 centimeters now exactly. It was agreed by definition. It used to be 2.54 plus a bunch of other decimals. 2.54 centimeters is now the agreed upon equivalent of 1 inch. And this particular coil is 17.09445 centimeters long, and you can use that conversion there if you get it into inches. It's about 10 inches long, I think. And it has 16.7 turns, which if you want to count the picture, you'll see that's what that one is. And that's how you build an ugly ballon. There's nothing to it. It's a piece of cake. This calculator and one simple equation, and you're away. And can you use more? Of course. Can you use less? Yes, if you don't go down so low in frequency. Do you worry about the self-resonance? No. In fact, this is the basic ugly ballon, which you saw there in the first slide. Works great. They're great ballons. So have some fun. Build yourself some ugly ballons. They're a great deal of fun to make, and they work very, very well. I use them on all antennas. I even put them on my commercial antennas, even if they supposedly don't need a ballon. Now, let's, as they say on television, pause for these important announcements. I'm going to give you a shameless commercial for my slot antenna book, which some of you may already have, but you can find it on Amazon eBooks. Just go to slotantennas.com or the Amazon and search for slotantennas.com. And there's the QR code. So that's it, folks. Ugly balance. They may be ugly, but they work fine.
Everything you want to know about balance.
You know as much as anybody else knows now. Aren't you glad you came?
All right. I don't have a resident expert to answer those questions, if anybody has, but our resident expert is somewhere in the Greek Isles right now on a cruise for the next month. So Bob Cumming would probably be the best person to ask some of those questions on. All right, so what we're going to do our drawing, and then we'll break. Of course, if everybody can help just tear down real quick, it'd be greatly appreciated. If you win one of the gift certificates, make sure you come up here, give us your name, call sign. If you're good on QRZ as far as address is concerned, that's fine. Just put QRZ down, and then we'll know that your address is good. But please also add your email address, so that way if anything's emailed. Ready? Okay, everybody got their blue tickets out?
There's two different color blue tickets apparently tonight.
Ooh.
So first one, I'm hoping the numbers are different. So if you have the darker color blue ticket, it's the one I'm calling now. Last four, 6400.
6400.
Ending in 400. 400. Going once. Going twice. All right. All right, this one's the opposite color blue ticket. Ending in 1661.
All right, excellent.
Lower. All right. This one's the darker blue ticket, 6405.
George?
All right, the other color, 1649.
Excellent. So while those guys are writing down their information, let me get away from the speaker. Next month's meeting obviously is the first Wednesday of November here. Oh, that's right, Joda's coming up. I'm sorry, guys, come on up. Come on up. We'll talk about Joda real quick.
Hi. Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Ken Lyons, KN4MDJ. I run the radio scouting program for Central Florida Council and on behalf of the ARRL for Southeastern Division. Joda Jamboree on the Air is the busiest day for us. Imagine your field day times 10. In fact, our council is the busiest in the country. We do it 6 to 7 weekends in a row. In this particular case, we did 400 scouts 2 weeks ago. We just canceled last Saturday because of the storm. It moved into the end of the month, and I've got 1,800 scouts pre-registered for this Saturday. So we're looking at 2,000 scouts almost every single weekend. I need some helpers, especially this Saturday. We're having personnel issues with the storm and stuff. So if there's anybody that's willing to come out to Camp Lenoche, which is in Paisley on Highway 42, we could use some more helpers. And if you can't make it this weekend, I've got 4 more weekends lined up all the way to the end of October. Bring out your Go box, do your preparing. Anyone who has a HT, we just need bodies. We need volunteers to help explain what ham radio is to the scouts and show them how it's useful in everyday emergencies. In our particular one, we do Wi-Fi ARDF. They use their cell phones to find hidden ammo can boxes throughout the event. And this particular one, we're also doing CW contesting. They're actually doing CW messages where they have to write an entire message and a computer is grading them and judging them, which is a lot harder than you look because it's being exact. So if you can reach out to me, kn4mdj.com, and I will follow up and try and get some helpers. Thank you.
Good luck on Joda. All right. Like I said, your tailgate's coming up, isn't it?
The Bahia Shriners tailgates flyers are back on the calendar. Just help yourself. I'll tell you all about it. And we'll see you next month.
Excellent. All right, guys, we're going to wrap it up. Like I said, it's kind of a little bit of a impromptu or wing it type meeting tonight. Next month, we'll be back to normal. Again, if you haven't bought your Christmas ticket or Christmas dinner tickets yet, next month is going to be the last month you can do it at a meeting or send us an email. We'll send you a link that you can purchase them online and stuff. So, yes, sir. It's Christmas party is the first Saturday of December 3rd at 6 o'clock. That's when the doors open. We will be doing Toys for Tots. So we always ask somebody to, bring a small unwrapped toy for Toys for Tots. And dinner is beef, turkey, or ham, and then all the fixings. And then a dessert table or 2 or 3 that will blow your mind. Okay. Plus, we usually have bars open, so there's a cash bar that you get drinks, and then the soda and water and stuff and coffee is usually on the club. So we have a good time. There's been as many as 125 at the Christmas party to only 50 or so the year of COVID was in full force. So we're trying to bring it back to normal. I mean, bring it back up to the numbers. It's a good night. We do award ceremonies. We like to surprise people with awards, and we usually do that at the awards party or the Christmas party. So it's a good time. We have fun. And there'll be some grand prizes. I was hoping to announce it tonight what the grand prize is going to be, but we'll do that next month. So a little hurricane got in the way this time. So be safe, everybody. We'll see you everybody next month.